Today, I'm going to the music store. I brought my violin with me, and we're gonna try out some amps. When I first started learning how to amplify my violin, boy, I didn't know anything. I would just buy a regular amp. I just thought I could just buy an electric guitar amp. They say get an amp, so I got an amp. But the sound didn't have much clarity. You know, it was thin and muffled and, you know, it was okay. I got through some gigs, but you know, it's a journey. You know, you have to try things. You have to spend a little money or spend a little time or a little bit of both to kind of understand certain things. And unfortunately, in the string world, we just don't have access to information about sound and how sound is produced. So I'm creating these videos from my experience just to help string players that are just starting out understand the basics and understand from my experience some of the things that I did wrong, some of my mistakes. And hopefully you won't have to go through some of the things that I went through. So I'm headed into the music store to try out some amps for my violin. All right, so I'm starting in the acoustic room because the acoustic amps just work better for string instruments. So let's see what we have. So we have the Fishman Loudbox Artist. That's their 100-watt amp. The Fishman Mini, Loudbox Mini. That's the 60-watt. And then here is the Fender Acoustic 100. Let's see how this acoustic instrument with the LR bags pickup sound. Let's start with the Loudbox Mini. Okay, the first step is to reset the amp. So I'm setting all the EQs to noon, turning the reverb all the way off, the chorus all the way off, just all the effects off. Slowly turn the master up a little bit. It's a little boxy and boomy. You turn down the lows. Okay, let me turn down some of the mids. Okay, turn up some highs. See, I didn't like how boxy it sounded, so basically just taking away some of the boxiness by, on this EQ, turning down the lows and turning down some of the mids, turning up the highs. Okay, now effects. Okay, turning up the reverb. Cool, reverb, turn that back a little bit. Add in some chorus. Okay, Loudbox Artist. Okay, so we're gonna reset the amp. Turn all the EQ to noon, going straight up. Turn the effects all the way down. All right, now let's get some effects. So the biggest difference between The Artist versus the Mini is the wattage, so it can get a lot louder and stronger, but you have more control over the effects. And then here is the Fender Acoustic 100. So reset the amp, turn the FX level all the way down. Found the tone I like. Now let's go through the effects. Okay, that was fun. That was my first time playing my violin through those amps. So I had fun testing them out to see how they sound. The Fishman Loudbox amps had a round, big sound. And I think that's great if you're playing like jazz, folk, gypsy jazz, any kind of styles where the music is open, the stages are not real loud. That gives you a really warm sound. The Fender Acoustic amp had more of a modern sound. It wasn't as round and warm. It was more of a direct sound that kind of cuts through, and it had more modern types of effects. And I encourage, if you're just starting out amplifying your stringed instrument, I would suggest you take your instrument to your local music store and just try some things out. You know, no pressure. If you want to keep it simple and you're just starting, choose an acoustic guitar amp. Acoustic amps work great. So remember, just reset the amp before you start playing. You want to hear how the amp sounds without any coloring. After you plug your violin in, then you adjust the EQ to dial in your sound. You know, if your violin is too boxy like mine was sounding, then turn down some mids, maybe turn down some lows. If it's muffled sounding, maybe turn up the highs, but just play around. You know, don't be afraid to turn the knobs and play and just find what you like. Then after that, try some of the effects on the amp and go from there. So I personally don't really have a need for an amp. I'm usually playing R&B, hip hop, and gospel styles of music, and a lot of times I'm using in-ear monitors. They're all jumbled up. There's a few here, right here, but sometimes it just makes it easier for you to hear yourself with in-ears when you have loud stages like I end up performing on a lot. So what I'm doing is a little more advanced. That's not how I started. You know, I started with an amp, and every type of gig requires something different. So if you choose to do different types of gigs and different styles of music, you might find yourself needing different rigs and different setups to be able to do them professionally. So, but anyway, that's a topic for another video. If you like this kind of content, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel to hear more information like this. And if you have any questions about amps or anything about sound, put it in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one.